Gonna go ahead and start.
Okay, great.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you again, everybody, for showing up tonight. It looks like, just looking at my screen, it looks like there's a really good full audience there in person. I wish I was there also. Little story on that here in a second, but I'm here. I'm here on the Zoom, and we've got, looks like about 15, 16 people or so, something like that on the Zoom. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, whether it's virtually or in person. We have our guest tonight, judge, is Ellen Nelson. Thank you for making the drive down from Evergreen, Ellen. I'll do a little bit more of an introduction of you here in a minute. And that first, I'll go through some of the other things that we have coming up here over the next few months. And that, first of all, I was going to say, the reason why I'm here on Zoom and not there in person is I evidently came down with a virus this last week. So some of you may have heard of COVID, but that's the one that I've got. So tested positive for it on Sunday, real mild symptoms, just kind of congestion in the sinuses, which now are pretty much gone, but I was still testing positive. So ended up having to stay here at home tonight. Again, we've got, this is our first competition now of 2023. I'm going to keep my comments here fairly brief because we've got a total of 102 images tonight. So as we go through them, we'll scroll through them fairly quickly here, where the members go ahead and enter our entries, enter our scores for those. And then when Ellen does the judging, I figure with that many entries, probably about 30 seconds per image will probably get us to where we'll keep the timeline rolling in that and get through all of them. A couple of the other upcoming events that we've got. The next one is 2 weeks from now, is February 15th. There is Learning to See Creatively with Greg Holden. March 1st is the next exhibition night. We just did one of those a few weeks ago, and those are always a real good opportunity for those who haven't done that before. You can enter up to 4 images, and rather than having them judged, we open them up and the maker gets to talk a little bit about the image, what they were thinking, why they took the image, and then others in the audience get to kind of weigh in with what they like about it, if there's any suggestions in terms of processing, composition, and so forth. And that it's a real good learning opportunity. So again, that's a exhibition night on March 1st. March 15th is our next presentation night. That will the next presentation night, I guess the second one going forward, and that is Lightroom tips and with Dave Purcell. He's going to go over a lot of the things that people have done with Lightroom in the past, as well as there's a lot of really neat new features in that have come out here over the last few months in that. So he'll be sure to cover some of those also. April 4th, we have our next competition night. That is a themed competition. That one is, the themes are portraits, pets, and silhouettes. And the judge is Cliff Lawson, who Cliff just did our last presentation for us on portraits. So hopefully we'll all learned a few things from that presentation and can utilize those in the portrait competition on April 4th. And then on April 19th, we have a presentation, and that is Eye versus Vision with Cole Thompson. We've had Cole Thompson, I believe it was a couple of years ago, did a great presentation with a lot of really imaginative black and white images that he's got. So look forward to seeing him again here on April 19th. A couple of other real quick announcements. I wanted to give a real quick shout out to Elaine Graves. She just about a week ago picked up her Master of Photography degree from Professional Photographers of America. So congratulations, Elaine. And then the other announcement I wanted to make also is I put it out on the chat, but I realize that people there in the room don't see that. But right now, we Exploring the Light, the City of Lone Tree Art Center has their annual event that we participate in. And the entries are open now. I believe it's through right around the end of February. I don't have the date for that, but it comes up. I think it's right in that last week of February. So we still got
It's the 27th.
27th. Okay, next to the last day of the month. And that. Thanks, Bruce. So again, this is always a really good competition in that the entries are due then. The judging takes place, I think, over the next week or two after that. And then once the images that are selected for the display are chosen, this year's judge, by the way, is Shannon Squires Taves, a very talented photographer out of Colorado Springs. And so she will be judging those. And then there will be a open house when they are first put on display, and that is April 8th, I believe. Yeah, the April 8th from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock. There's an open house, and that will be over at the City of Lone Trees, the Art Center. And so, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and again introduce our guest tonight. Thank you again, once again, Ellen, for coming down from Evergreen. Ellen is a professional photographer, pretty much has been for most of her life. In fact, she started back in her teens photographing classmates and that. So that was just the start of it, but she's had quite a few accomplishments since then. She's worked as a university photographer, a photojournalist, portrait photographer, freelance photographer, and has numerous awards and also numerous things that have been featured in newspapers and magazines. She has her master's also, as I mentioned with Elaine. Ellen just a couple of years ago also earned her master's of photography degree with the Professional Photographers of America. Fabulous wildlife and landscape photographer. And also, I know over the last couple of years, she's really taken an interest in portraits and really emphasizing on headshots, and that she has some amazing portfolio of headshots that she's done. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Carino, who's going to go ahead and do the image competition here.
All right, I'll come over here so that I can gesture. I'm pretty good at gesturing, although I'm not Italian, so I don't know where I got it from. Love great blue herons, unless it's a, yeah, that's great blue heron. Interesting. Thank you. For a minute, I thought it was a sandhill crane. It's like, no, that's got red on it. Had a little bit of a problem judging this one because it looks, it's a beautiful image, except that it looks like it's out of focus a bit and it's a bit pixelated. I can tell that the photographer was shooting through grass. They may have also added a texture to it because it looks like we've got a texture in here. But I would love to have had a little bit more breathing room on the left so that I could tell, like, what's this guy looking at, or girl? And so there was a little bit of, because of those issues, I gave it a 6. These are just the coolest birds. I'm sorry, kestrels are cool, but they're also hard to shoot. They're small and kind of squirrely. They're squirrely without being a squirrel. It looks okay on your screen, Bruce. It looks, you could tell that the branch was in much more focus than the bird itself. Maybe if I step back, I can see a little better. I felt that this was a great opportunity to photograph this, but at the same time, I felt that there was lost detail in the branches, and I didn't think that the photographer was going for high key. I felt that there was some exposure issues, and so I also gave this a 6. Okay, this I think is very creative. I like it. It almost feels like you're in space. You know, it's kind of a Death Star kind of sort of thing. And so I applaud the maker for putting this together. It looks like it must have been a lot of fun to photograph. And I can't tell if this was something that was done as a composite. Is that allowed? And so, okay, so this could have been a composite, or it could have just been a one big smash. So so for that, I thought it was I thought it was creative and I enjoyed it, and I gave it an 8. Okay, I wish I was there. This is a wonderful opportunity for where this was photographed. However, I was hoping that there would be more detail. I mean, you know, photographing snow and ice is obviously very difficult to do, trying to get detail and the contours and things, but we've lost a lot of detail in here. And a choice of f-stop, we've got some issues up here as far as how much did you want in focus? This could have been a decision that the maker made. I wish, however, that in the composition, that the penguin was not just smack in the middle of the image. That I would have liked to have had it probably over to the left so that you would be following the penguin that way. And in all honesty, because we read from left to right, I would recommend that you flip the image so that your eye travels from left to right, and the penguin would be over here looking that way, and that from the way PPA likes to judge and critique things, that is a more pleasing image than having something looking off to the right. So consider that. There's no writing or anything recognizable in here that would say, hey, wait a minute, you flipped that. So consider something like that in the future. Oh, I gave it 7. Okay, beautiful sculpture. I'm not sure where this is. Is this someplace I'm downtown Denver? See, obviously I don't get out. I celebrate the choice of just the textures, and we've got some really nice lighting going on here. So I think that that's really cool. This catches my eye, and so kind of not a fan of that. I don't think that that's important to the image. Kind of sometimes we call things like that eye catchers, because it catches your eye. And so if you were trying to do something where you want the viewers to focus on the image, then I would suggest that you use a more shallow depth of field. This information and through the sculpture is not as important as the sculpture itself. And so I would think that if you chose something more shallow, this would be a more pleasing shot. And this is what is this? East to west, 7.
Okay.
Okay, delicate. I like this. I think that the maker did a great job capturing this. There's a lot going on here. We've got the drips, and even though it's a kind of a more of a bullseye, how is this cropped? Because it's hard to tell in here. Is this a vertical or hard to tell? Okay, I would think that if this was a vertical, it might sort of give it more strength as opposed to being lost in if this is a 2 to 3 crop ratio. But it looks like it's a nice focus pretty much from front to back. The brightest areas of the image are usually where your eye goes, and so I kind of start over here, and I'm seeing a lot of white up here. Also seeing this down here, and this catches my eye. And I would wonder if we cropped it here, if that would help for the viewer to not kind of come down here and just go right out of the image. It's possible that this would improve the image just by cutting off that last little bit of stem that is somewhat distracting. Delicate got a 9 though, because I liked it.
This is glass abstraction.
As a judge, when I look at images and sometimes you just go like, why is this an important image? Why did you spend time photographing this? And I Well, it's abstract. So I honestly, I had a hard time finding a place for my eye to land. And it's got some nice colors. It actually has sort of complementary colors. We've got the purple and orange going on there, but it didn't capture me. It didn't have the impact that I'm thinking the maker wanted it to have. And so I gave that a 7.
It's been a long, productive life.
I gotta tell you, I love photographing machinery. I'm a total geek. I actually have a degree in engineering, so I'm totally into, in fact, I worked for a valve company for a couple of years, so I had to photograph a lot of stuff like this. So I really enjoy these kinds of photos. But I also see that there's some really cool textures in here, really cool colors here. Again, I was talking about complementary colors. We've got some yellows and blues going together here. But again, my eye doesn't know where to land. What's the point of focus? In all honesty, my favorite thing in this image is this spring over here. I like the way that's lit. But it's a bit of a kind of a bullseye composition, which typically is not as pleasing. And gave it a 7.
Kissing in the rain.
If you guys have ever been out in a rainstorm, and if you've got like a storm jacket or something for your lens and stuff, and you can go out in the rain, it's just magical. I mean, because other people don't do it. So when you have a photo with rain and stuff, it just makes it that much more unique. And so I celebrate that. When I teach wildlife classes, I always say, I tell my students, I say, no buts, okay? If you have a butt in the shot, move so that you don't have butts. So this is not as pleasing to me, and I have no idea what this is over here, but I'm thinking that does not need to be in the photo. If the maker is good at Photoshop, but that's a really easy patch to take that out. As I mentioned earlier, your eye goes to the brightest part of the image, which would likely be the backs of their heads. I see that there's typically some detail in there, so I think we're okay there. But your eye also goes to the area of highest or least contrast, which could be the butt, or over here with, I can't even tell what that is. It almost looks like camera gear or something. So I'd also like, this is pretty much centered composition, and this really isn't as important. And so I would consider cropping off like the top 25%. You'd still have showing that it's rain, but I think that the interest would be brought up in the image, and I think it would improve it. And this is a 7.
Mugshot.
I think there's got to be a better title for this than mugshot. Mugshot doesn't. I mean, these are such cool secretary birds. They're good looking. I don't know. I just don't feel that that's unless the maker's thinking, okay, this one's looking off to the left and that one's looking straight at you, or whatever. I guess that's looking off to the right. But here again, I'm a stickler for things that draw my eye. The muddy patch at the bottom is not as attractive. I would consider that. I think it might be slightly overexposed, and I gave it an 8. Am I going too slow? Is this too much?
We're at about 3.5 hours at this rate.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Ellen, you're doing great.
Okay.
You're-
I like this. This looks really cool, but I think it's crunchy. How's that? 8.
No, Ellen, your pace is good. It's
Do you
been
want to hear
fine.
more about it, or?
No,
I think the
these are-
colors, I think the white balance, consider looking at your white balance on this too.
North Clear Creek.
This is really cool. I love trees, absolutely love trees, and these are cool, even though they're dead. But this area in the center has no detail. You want to, when you do a timed exposure on waterfalls, you need to know what exposure to use so that you maintain the detail all the way through the falling water. I give that a 7.
Now you see it.
I gave this area in here, no detail in the shadows. We should have feathers in here. And then also we've lost detail in the highlights. So I gave that an 8.
Nunnery grounds.
I think this is, this has the opportunity of being a really cool shot, but here again, I wonder to myself, it's like, what was it in this photo that caused the maker, whatever, to stop, to enjoy this view? The flowers, what if the maker had gotten down lower? Would that have helped to enhance the flowers? These are not necessarily in focus. My eye is going off the page here with the white, and I gave it a 7.
Security.
I like oh, another butt shot. One of the other things that you've got to be so careful with when you're photographing, make sure you have the whole wildlife in the picture, if that's possible. I mean, sure, if it's walking in the snow, you're not going to get the feet that are buried in the snow. Good job sticking with the tail here. I like that, but losing the feet. And I think there's a lost tail on the other side. It would be great if you could keep those in the photo. Maybe not so much sky above, so that would bring the photo together. Oh, all right. Security 8.
The trot.
I love photographing horses. They're such beautiful animals, and so and the way the maker has caught some of the musculature that's to be commended, and the texture. This is likely not a great lighting situation, and so for what the maker was able to capture, that was great. Not sure about the it felt to me that it was slightly out of focus and a little crunchy, so gave it, I'm sorry, it's hard to read in the dark, an 8. Crunchy is sort of, who said that? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Crunchy is kind of, it has too much contrast, and so it all of the edges are somewhat harsh or sharp, and it gives it that feeling that it's just crunchy. It's overly textured. Yeah, I could say it's over sharpened. That's a possibility. It's hard for me to tell in this image, but that's likely. That's a really good point, that this was likely over sharpened.
Wheeler Falls.
Another gorgeous place. Wow, I wish I was here. Again, with falling water, and it may just be what we're looking at here in on the screen and stuff, but I wish that the detail, there was more detail in the water. Color also feels a little wrong to me as far as the saturation goes. I think I would revisit this and check your color balance, see if we can get something. But the composition is nice with essentially coming up here and going, your eye is led through the image nicely. And this is a 7.
Simply Green.
This is This has a lot of detail in it, which is great. And I love the light coming through the leaf so you can see the pattern of the veins. I felt that it was slightly off balance though. And the leaf up at the very top, I would consider taking that out. It really isn't necessary. And I think the star of the show is a big leaf in the foreground, and the little one up at the top is kind of distracting. So I would have cropped or use the patch tool if you're good with Photoshop. By the way, anybody who hasn't used the patch tool because it used to be awful, it's not awful anymore. So just saying. And I give this a 7.
White powdered donuts.
Great title. That's my favorite part, is the title. Well done. Again, we've lost detail in the snow and the highlights. There's a highlight in the eye, so that's good. Always try to get highlight in the eye for wildlife. And also you've given enough breathing room for it to be going this way. And I gave it a 7.
Where's the ball?
Again, a great title, because otherwise, because you're covering your tail when you say where's the ball, because that tells the story of what's going on here. The fact is that the ball is not in the photo. So that's good. Here again, just like with wildlife, please try to remember to keep the feet in the shot, also body parts. And I have no idea what that is over on the far left. I'm guessing that's another hand, somebody else's arm. Try to have more, I guess if I can say just more of the story in there so that you can see the guy who's falling. I mean, that to me could have been interesting, but it's to me this has potential, but I gave it a 7.
Okay, that's the last of the beginner intermediate digital. So Chuck, is there a judge's award on the,
Let's see what I got. 9, and I only have 1 9, so that would be 1.
okay,
Okay, do you want to know what it was?
No, yeah. I'm so sorry.
Delicate.
We
Yeah,
gotta get to.
okay,
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna be missing it. We only got an hour left.
okay.
Okay, I'll go faster. I'm sorry. I mean, okay, so what do you guys want? Do you want less detail? Do you want me to just go quick? Okay,
Hey, this is a wonderful sunrise.
I agree. It's
Advanced digital color.
I would I wish that it was even a more wonderful sunrise. I mean, this is a great scene. There's a lot of sky that really is kind of pale and not as impactful. So I would consider cropping off at least that top 25% or so. I think that would bring more impact to the image. My favorite part of the image is this area over here on the left. And I like the oranges and the reds with the greens. That here again, we've got some complementary colors going. I'm not quite sure what's going on at the bottom. I wish I had more information that would just kind of root the image. And I gave it a 7.
This one's Blue Wave.
Okay, I think this is really cool. And I love the fact that there's a person in here or people to give it a sense of scale, because if those people weren't there, you would have no idea how big this was.
Upper left.
Yeah, red jacket, and I think there's a tripod there too. So, I mean, I think this is great because this is sharp and that's acceptably sharp up there. And I think they did a great job and I gave it a 9.
It kind of works.
Okay, thank you. I'll put it over here.
This is bursting open.
Okay, again, the things that need to be sharp are sharp. I like how it's backlit in a way. We've got some interesting colors in here. And it, even though this is a bullseye composition, it works. I believe it's symmetrical from my angle, left to right and stuff. So I think the maker did a good job and I gave it a 9.
Cactus flower.
Okay, with high key, it's always tricky as to what you have as detail and focus and what's essentially blown out. But I think they did a good job with just kind of celebrating the center of this. It's really nice lines going on here, and it leads your eye. This area, the yellow in the middle, is not quite as detailed, and I would like that to have been a little bit more detail. And I don't know what this is up here, but I don't think that it's helping the story. And so I would consider cropping out the upper right-hand corner or doing something with that, because that's kind of part of where my eye is going. And it doesn't need to be going that way. This is actually kind of sharper than parts of the flower. So I think that might be something to consider for improvement. I gave it an 8.
Dancing cosmos.
Okay, I like this, nice texture, nice colors. It's got nice sense of motion and nice sense of just kind of a serene and calm, along with that feeling of motion, and along with the a longer stem, and your eye is just drawn up to the image. And I think they did a good job. It's well placed within the canvas, and I gave it a 9.
Dazzle.
This is bedazzling, that's for sure. I have a little bit of a problem with what's going on the right side. I'm assuming that the maker is shooting through the bushes, so to speak, to try to get the zebras on the right. There's some really nice patterns going on here. You can't argue with that. I would consider cropping both the top and the bottom and see what that does to make. I mean, I don't know. I think so far every single image has been a 2:3 ratio, or essentially a 4:6. Consider other crops, a 1:2 ratio. I think this would be really cool with it cropped like along here and down here. And that might really give it more impact, as opposed to having so much real estate around the zebras. Sorry. Is this Dazzle?
Yes.
I
Dazzle.
gave it an 8.
Decay.
So I love macro photography. Back again from my engineering past, I'm a bit of a geek with stacking images and doing stuff like that. I don't know if this is a stacked image, but it's a lot of fun, and I'm guessing it's dead. I have, true confession, I have a bumblebee in my refrigerator that has been there for almost a year. I mean, just to play with bugs like that is actually kind of cool. So So I gave it an 8.
Demonized.
Once again, if there's parts of the wildlife that is cut off, almost unnecessarily cut off, I wish I could see more of the ear here. I like the eyes. I mean, that's kind of where your eyes go. I don't really see a catch light in the eyes, but it's somewhat implied because of the brightness of the eyes. There's a potential that this may be over sharpened. It's hard to tell on the screen, but that's something to look at. And I gave this an 8.
Emerald reflection.
This is something I should know where this is, right? Okay, everybody tell me where this is. Is it in Washington? Okay. Really, really nice location, and I don't know as far as what the maker's location is in order to get this. I'm assuming they're on the shore as opposed to in the water. I wish that there was a little, I feel like this has, the lighting is pretty flat, and I wish that there was a little bit more just variation in the greens so that the light wasn't so flat. You know, consider celebrating some of these ridge lines and stuff in here in order to do this. Just kind of in here, if there were some more highlights and shadows, maybe that would make this area pop a little bit more. It is a cool place though, and for that I gave it, I'm sorry, what was this, Emerald? I gave it an 8.
Familiar friend.
This is this again has got some nice color to it, complementary colors. I'm guessing that you've probably heard this in the past. So this area over here on the right has gotten a little bit kind of bluish cyan, and I would recommend that try to avoid that shade of blue. I'm thinking that the maker also tried to pull out the sky a little bit, and it's gotten a little, to me, it's just a little bit pinkish brownish, and I'm wondering about how the sky was manipulated. This down here with the it's kind of interesting because at first you think, oh, it's too bad that this is not like full-blown fall kind of color, but in a way, the fact that it's just little bits of color in there sort of gives it an interesting texture, and so I like that. Is this Familiar Friend?
Yeah, familiar friend. Mhm.
I gave it a 9. I can't tell you, it must have had impact for me, immediate impact, because it does have actually some good leading lines. So coming from here and going around to the far mountain.
Family outing.
So I shoot a lot of bison. They have bison up in the Genesee area. In fact, I have an image in this month's bison image in this month's Colorado Life magazine. So I know how hard this is, and so for that I celebrate the maker, because they're coming right at you and you're focusing on them, and you got the really cool snow kicking up and stuff like that. So and in situations like this, it's great that you've got all 3 faces, that there isn't that overlap, too much of an overlap, and the faces aren't blocked. It's good so that there isn't that merger of body parts. The fact that the middle one, you can only see the one leg and stuff, is not as critical, because you do have just the 3 faces here. Again, I would consider cropping this a little bit. This area off to the right is not as important. And it would make this more, I feel it would have more impact if it was over more to the right. And therefore, because right now it's kind of that bullseye composition, and I don't think that that is as impactful as if it was maybe cropped a little tighter, and this is not as the right half is not as, or I should say the right fifth is not quite as interesting. And I gave it a 9.
First light.
Okay, I'm assuming this is Mesa Arch, and it's pretty cool. It's done a lot. That's a favorite place for a lot of people to go to photograph. And so there's, this area in here is nice. I'm guessing that this was a focus stack, because this is also sharp back here. However, inside the arch, this middle area is a little bit uneventful. And so I would say I would consider if you had been higher or lower to center the clouds within this central area, if that was something you could have done, just to make it more interesting. First light, I gave an 8.
Jewel beetle.
Okay, well, this is nicely sharp. I'm wondering again if this is a focus stack, except that we're looking down on it, and therefore there aren't as many planes to worry about, as opposed to having it face on and then going back from the eyes backwards. To photograph it straight down, you don't have as much to worry about, but you can see that the feet are in focus, and the eyes have catch lights. And so it's kind of fun catching that iridescent glow and stuff to it. I think it's pretty cool. And I gave it an 8. Oh, I take that back. I apologize. I gave that a 9.
This one's just the two of us.
Okay, this is a nice interaction type image. I love the iridescent colors and the pinks, along with kind of that black and blue look over here. Losing detail again in the highlights. I wish there was more to the leg at the very bottom, so that we could just feel like there's room for the image down at the bottom. I'm thinking I do like this though. This is kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but the fact that the leg and this reflection is kind of, there's some symmetry there that's kind of fun. It makes a more interesting pattern there. I like that. And I apologize. I should have. The fact that I don't have lines here is making this a little hard. I gave it an 8.
Last light of autumn.
Oh, thank you. That would really help. This is, when we're all just hoping that we can get a photo with fall color and snow at the same time, right? I mean, isn't that all of our dreams when we're shooting fall color in the mountains? I like the way it's hitting the tops of the peaks over here, the cragginess of this, and also the way your eye just kind of slides down from here again, your eye going to one of the brightest parts of the image, sliding down with these leading lines and then coming down here, and it's kind of making a nice V shape going back up like that. And so I think it's it's an impactful image, and it's doing its job. We've got a little bit lost detail in the shadows over here, but for the most part, we have detail in the highlights. This might be a little bit of less detail, and I question if this is as useful. What if you cropped it here so that your eye doesn't kind of go off the edge, because you don't want to have something of highest contrast or lowest contrast, something white or black on the edge, and we've got something there. But for the most part, it's a beautiful location, and it's a nice capture, and I give it a 9.
Last light.
Okay, I really like the ripples in this. I think that that's fun to have so much texture. But again, I'm wondering what it was that the maker thought to themselves, I really want to take a photo of this. I wonder if there might have been some shadow detail in here that has gotten lost, and that would have helped to enhance more texture within this. But I can't tell. I like the fact that there's some nice kind of a repeating pattern, because we've got the pattern of the kind of the horizontal line here, but then we've also got a different kind of horizontal line there. I would also consider cropping it off to the left here, so that this doesn't just end smack in the middle of the image. You might consider that. And I gave it an 8.
Lift off.
Okay, is pure joy, right? So that's great. You can tell that this image, that that the maker caught this just as I'm guessing as the child is coming down. So that's very cool. Not a fan of backs, butts or backs. Wish I could have seen the expression on I'm assuming the father's face. That could have helped to add to the photo, just being able to go from the one expression to the other. Also, we're talking about catch lights a little earlier. Her eyes are dark. There's no light in her eyes. And I would love to see a little bit of something, a little sparkle in her eyes that would have helped to enhance the image. And I gave that an 8.
Milky Way over Homebeck Homestead.
Okay, great place for a Milky Way. I'll grant you that. I'm wondering if it's a stacked image or not. I feel like it's pretty noisy, and I would recommend to the maker that they consider that when they put the image together, or shoot it so that there isn't quite so much noise. The lower part of the image is kind of interesting. The lower part of the image actually looks somewhat painterly, and I'm not quite following what the intent might have been, and so it kind of in the 3 seconds that we've got to judge these, I was thinking, what was the intent with that? But for being able to do a Milky Way image, I like the lighting, nice light painting, I'm assuming, to get to get the cabins and stuff, and I gave it a 9.
$1 million fall morning.
Once again, wonderful snow with fall color that just so gives the mountains that pop. I like the fact that the fog is not so dense that you're able to see through it, and you're able to see the detail beyond it. And there's also some really nice detail in the sky, the clouds and stuff. Even the 2 trees in the foreground helps to kind of tie everything together. And I gave it a 9.
Mystic Peaks.
I think the peaks look great in this. It does really look kind of mystical. But the silhouette of the trees in the foreground, the fact that there's no detail in that, just it kind of I guess it's a distraction for me, but other people may really like that. The fact that you've got detail up here with, I'm going to say these are pine cones up here, but then this has no detail. I think if you wanted to have them as silhouettes, then don't have any detail anywhere. We've lost detail in the snow over here, but it's a really cool place, and a nice capture considering just that sort of that mystical feel. And I gave it an 8. Oh, I do have one other comment with this. I wish there was more to the photo, looking down at it.
Out on a limb.
Really nice shot, nice capture, the colors, nice iridescence. I can feel the texture. We've got catch light in the eye. The beak is sharp. The tail feathers are sharp. So that's great. I'm thinking there's a little bit, I'm seeing a halo here. I'm wondering if that's chromatic aberration. You might want to look at that to double check. And also, as I mentioned earlier, reading from left to right, just by nature, human nature, you're reading from left to right, boom, you're hitting the back. Consider flipping this. If you flip it, then the bird, you will be enjoying kind of the curve of the stem and things like that, and then come to the bird. And that just gives you more, it just makes it a more interesting image. And I gave it a 9.
Reflecting ice.
Here again, I'm assuming that it was the intent to have a high key. We've lost a little bit of detail in places, but I'm assuming that that's the intent. I'm wondering if the horizon is straight. Somebody from a different angle can tell me if it looks straight. Does it look straight? Doesn't it? See, I feel like it's running a little bit, but so consider that. But we've got some nice detail in the ice, and I like the repeating pattern. I like the diamond pattern from the reflection, and also just a repeating pattern from left and right. I think it looks it's very pleasant, and I gave it a 9.
Saints and sinners.
This is this is a cool image. As far as the church goes, obviously it's falling over, but I don't think it's falling over as much as it looks like it is here. I think we've got some keystoning issues. Keystoning is when something looks like it's leaning backwards or leaning in on itself. And so I feel that that the fact that this is leaning is not all because it's falling over. I think it really, I'd like to see, for any architectural image, always have to have vertical lines. This should be straight up vertical, unless unless this is a derelict building and it's falling over. But when you have a building, always check to make sure, are my walls straight? Are those vertical lines? This is kind of interesting because I think you see the building and then your eye goes to the lightning bolt. And then eventually you kind of come over here, maybe with the, I think this just went out.
Or quit.
Kind of, I see my eye goes around here like this, and finally it's that bright area over there on the far left. And I think that's interesting. It also looks like the maker was down low, and I celebrate that because most people like to just stand and take a photo. And I say, consider going down low, going high, get a different angle. I gave this an 8.
Starvation Creek.
This looks like a beautiful place. I like the idea of the water coming at you. That's always fun, but we've lost detail in the brightest whites and also in the shadows. It looks a little crunchy to me, if I can say that. I wish the lighting to me actually is a bit flat, and it would be nice if there was more highlight and shadow. And I gave it an 8.
Stock Show Cowboy.
So I shoot a lot of rodeos, love the action. And I know in the stock show, the lighting is horrendous. So kudos for trying to get something. And it looks like once you took the photo, the maker took the photo, done some serious post-processing on it. It's hard to tell. It looks pretty painterly from here. And there's detail lost in the front of the steer. So I would have liked to have seen more detail. I think some of it was lost. And again, this is kind of more of a bullseye composition. Possibly give more room to the right to allow the horse and the steer to be going off in this direction, give it more breathing room. And I gave it a 7.
Storm Ripples.
I just wrote, wow. I just say, wow. This is sharp. The pinnacle is sharp. Beautiful, beautiful choice of sky. Whether if this was a sky replacement, it was well done. There's a little bit of a halo right here, but I'm going to just say that that's the natural horizon going on there. The light, the light coming in for the sunrise or the sunset. Let's see, if this was in the west, then it probably is sunset, I'm guessing. And I give it a 10. There you go. I actually gave something a 10. Hang on, can you go back to that one?
Sure.
Not in the center, guys. Look, it's off to the left. Thank you. You got something that takes your eye over there and then over to the left. So to do something, a composition that brings your eye, and it isn't a bullseye composition, it's just very well done.
Sundew number 2.
So in PBA, if you give somebody 100 or a 10, then they have to take a break because then the next photo, you're kind of influenced by it and you think, but I gotta tell you, I think I got nothing to say on this. This is great. I like it. I love the backlighting. There's some really nice detail going on here. And it's sharp from tip to tail, and I gave it a 10.
Symmetry.
I think when you name something symmetry, it better be symmetrical. There's some beautiful, this is a beautiful flower. My eye goes to the center, you know, the stamens and stuff, and that is not quite in focus. But the rest of the petals are, I like that. My eye here again goes off the edges because there's some bright things, some eye catchers on the edges. If you want it to be celebrating the flower, then I say take those other blossoms out of the image, and I think it might be more have more impact. I gave this an 8.
Territorial dispute.
Okay, well, I'm assuming we all know how hard it is to shoot hummingbirds. And to be able to catch this, we've got a lot. I mean, okay, even at 2500th of a second, you're going to get this kind of movement. I mean, so I don't have a problem with the wing edges being a bit blurred. Look at how sharp this is here with the tail feathers, and also what the f-stop had to be to have that much in focus. I think that's a pretty cool shot, and then I gave it a 9.
The bridge.
Well done for being someplace that I don't think people normally go to get this kind of image to really frame the castle. You know, it's well titled because it is the bridge that's leading your eye into the castle. I wish the sky was a little bit more interesting, and we've got a little bit of blueness over here. I would like to have seen that just kind of going more to the grays as a shadow as opposed to the blues. But you've got this area down here looks a little muddy. I'm not quite sure what's going on underneath the bridge. It could have just been how it was constructed, and that's a flat area. But for the most part, it's an interesting image. And I gave it an 8.
The close of the day.
I think once again, we've got some great colors in here. I mean, fall is just so magnificent in Colorado. I mean, let's face it, we've got some great places to go. I like how your eye can go from the bright yellows. Actually, over here we've got the mountains, and then here again sliding down the mountain. You've got some variation in light and color off on the left, and then your eye traveling over to the right. Might have been helpful to have the edges, the lower edges, to be vignetted so that your eye isn't as drawn away from the photo. Because this here again is one of the brighter parts of the photo. But if this had been vignetted in the lower right-hand corner, that could have helped to keep your eye within the image. Which one is this, close of the day?
Yes.
I gave it an 8.
The grand jewels.
Oh, okay, so that's the name of the ship. I was wondering, because JULES, you would think, because at first I thought jewels as in diamonds. I actually like the composition in this, because your eye, actually here I was saying that we go from left to right, but my eye actually kind of starts over here with this curve, and you go down the gangplank, and then you see that there's something cool in the background, and then you come back around, you got something cool over here, and you come back down. So there's kind of that circular journey that your eye takes with this, and then we've got an interesting sky. It also the rule of odds, to have the elements of the image be in 3s, 5s, 7s. You've got 3 important elements in here. So that really helps to tie the image together, and I like it. And I gave it an 8.
The photographer's spot.
What's not to like about the county building, city and county building, and all the magnificence, but I feel like this is overexposed, and possibly revisit what the exposure was on this, or in post-processing, Lightroom, knock down your sliders a little bit, try to get more oomph out of these colors. These colors should have a lot more pop. We've lost some detail with the street light, and maybe there's something that you can bring back. You can tell it was a long exposure because of the movement in the flag, but I think also the movement in this photographer. So I think this is one that you can enjoy going back into Lightroom or Photoshop and seeing if you can knock the exposure down a little bit so that it'll have more vibrant colors. I'm thinking also, I'm checking the horizon on this too, but I think the verticals, the columns are perfectly vertical. So well done for that. Yeah, that's the whole wide angle issue. So I gave this a 7.
Tranquility.
So I'm into getting tranquil with this. I like it. I think that my eye kind of travels along here and goes out here again. It kind of goes off the page. Consider having a vignette to help you with that. I also, once again, the interesting thing is smack in the middle of the image. So you might consider cropping maybe the left side or the right side. My eye catches this highlighted bush over here. Maybe crop that out so that you don't have a reason for the viewer's eye to go off the edge of the page. And I gave it a 7.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
We probably ought to speed it up a little.
Okay, I'll do it. You told me I was doing good.
That was him. I'm telling you. 3. Time's up.
All right. Okay, I celebrate the just the imagination for putting this together and seeing this. Although I would consider having a shallower depth of field, because having the image with the stuff that's going on through the window in focus, it kind of takes away from the impact of the tree. And I gave it an 8.
Verdant Spring.
This looks like a really cool place to go. I see we've got some cool irises over here and stuff like that, but I wish that there was more color variation. It's really kind of, in a way, you can say that this is kind of monochrome green. And I would like to have seen a little bit more variety of color, and I gave it an 8.
Waiting at sunset.
love Sweet Light, Golden Hour, that's great. And if this is your child, then this is a wonderful one, wonderful photo. I'm sure you absolutely love it. With these nice colors, you got good catch lights in the eye, and I gave it an 8.
Yeah, I agree. Storm report and stuff we were gonna do with you guys.
Do you want me to tell you right now?
Yeah.
Okay, the sand ripples, storm ripples.
That's the one.
Yeah, so the storm ripples.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Storm ripples, good. Black and white.
This is really cool. I like all this kind of, I really like the fact that you turn this into a black and white. Here again, we've got some keystoning issues off on the left. That pot should not be leaning over to the left. There, you know, the tool in Lightroom, the automatic leveler, what is that called? Is that the transition panel? Yeah. Check out the transition panel just to get this flower pot on the left needs to be straightened out. And then we've got some lost detail in the whites. I gave it a 7.
Delicate bloom.
Here again, nice idea to make it go black and white. I think that helped to show the detail and the texture in the stamen, and I gave it an 8.
Fog and ice.
This was probably a really magical morning, and I can understand the just the joy of going out and photographing, but I honestly don't know where my eye should land on this, and I gave it a 6.
Follow the leader.
I like the way these birds are, the sandhills are perfectly spaced and stuff, or really close to space. I'm not sure about the just the details. I'm not sure it's perfectly in focus. It's hard for me to tell with the white sky. So I gave it a 7.
Forgotten.
I like this. I like the storytelling behind this, and the fact that there's a lot going on. I would strongly recommend that you eliminate this piece of white wood that's just right in the front right. I think that's where my eye goes. And if there was a way to, I'm guessing this is a windmill that has fallen over. If there was a way to enhance the light and shadows of the windmill, it's got some really cool textures in there. And I gave it an 8.
Intense.
Thank you for having all of the body of the animal, of the cougar in this shot. I appreciate that. There's catch lights in the eyes, but the area below the nose is totally blown out. And so you might want to go back in and see if there's more detail in that, on those white patches by the whiskers. I gave it a 7.
Kappa sunrise.
Here again, this looks like a great story to tell. We've got the person there that really helps to give us a sense of scale. I just think there's the tree is just a little too blocky. It's too dominating in the photo and makes it hard to appreciate the rest of the landscape. And I gave it a 7.
Tig Bridge.
This looks like a great place to photograph. However, the light in this particular instance is really flat. So we don't have that good sense of contrast. And I think that there might also be some sharpness issues, and I gave it a 7.
Portable shade.
So I shoot a lot of reportage, and so I celebrate the fact that obviously this woman is moving, and so this was just an instant in time. The shadow that lands on her nose is not very attractive, or the sunspot on her nose is not very attractive. And it's difficult to see the details in her face, and this big shadow on the right is distracting, and I gave it a 6.
Shaded response.
This has got some really nice texture going on it, and it took me a little bit to notice the bicycle in there. Did you guys see the bicycle like right away? Okay. I mean, I would like to have seen a little bit more contrast so that you could see that there's a really cool bicycle there. In fact, ideally, if the bicycle had been more in the foreground as opposed to kind of hidden in the back, that would also make it more interesting. And I gave it an 8.
The bond.
Here again, I consider this almost a reportage type image because it's just a moment in time. There's a lot going on. I mean, there's a great emotion between man and horse, but there's also junk in the picture that is distracting and takes away from the impact of the image. The hoses and the stuff coming out of the grate makes it just not as impactful as it could be. I've also lost detail in the horse's flank, and I gave it a 7.
What did you say?
This is really cool. I like the interaction. I wish that they were even closer. In fact, I have had images like this before, and I have photoshopped them closer together. That's not hard to do. So something that you might consider, because just think of the impact if they were nose to nose as opposed to farther away. This one has a catch light in the eyes, kind of. This one barely has a catch light in the eyes. That would be something else that you could enhance in post-processing. And I gave it a 7.
Your choice.
Oh, this has a lot going on in it. It took me a little bit to notice the skull, and I thought that was cool. There's something angle. Oh, in the upper left, I would like to have seen more of the building, or consider with leading lines and stuff, consider taking that roof line to the upper left-hand corner so that just kind of adds a little balance to the image. And here again, you want those, it's a building, you want those lines vertical. And I gave it an 8.
They get 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 choose from.
Okay, this one, delicate
One, the
shaded
respite,
respite.
Forgotten.
Which one's forgotten?
Forgotten is the one with the windmill and laying down. And then the delicate blossom.
Let's go with forgotten.
Okay, good. Peony,
Peony.
peony.
Is there, see where it's cloth.
Yeah, see, I've had that issue too, because I said everything is like a 4 to 6.
You take the background color to dark gray. There it is, right?
Nope, it didn't work.
Yeah, that, you know what? Thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. I had to go with what I saw, which was kind of a more of a bullseye crop on it. I really like, I like this image. I like how you've got a nice symmetry of the reflection. This leaf up here catches my eye, and I don't consider it necessary. I think you might think about removing that, and I gave it a 9.
Aqua, please.
I think there's some real interesting things going on here. This is over at the museum. The railroad crossing, the word crossing, the fact that it sort of overlaps the train car. I just wish you'd been a little bit lower so that there was not this merger here, because that's just kind of an eye catcher. And I'm thinking that there might also it may need to be straightened a little bit. Actually, this is perfectly straight, but I'm looking at the water tower, which is what the story that you're trying to tell, because that's the title of it. So you might keep an eye on your vertical lines with the water tower. And then this mountain wave cloud that we've got here is pretty striking, and it kind of takes away from the story. So some things to think about, and I gave it a 7.
Blustery evening.
This is a really cool shot. I like it. I wish that it was more symmetrical in a sense, because this is sort of a symmetrical image, and yet there's less white space on the left than there is on the right. I actually would consider, if it's possible, to add more white space on the left to give it a more symmetrical feel, and possibly lose a little bit up above. And I gave it an 8.
Butterfly.
This is a lot of fun. I usually see this image right after this when the swimmer is taking a breath. But this gives you that sense of power, the flash, or the splashing and the water, and the not only the ripples of the water, but also the ripples of the swimmer's muscles. So that's kind of cool. I feel that it's slightly banked to, down on the left, and I would like to see it more straight across. So that's something to think about. I was trying to make his arms level. I was thinking they were off. Okay, something to consider. So, but still, it's a cool shot. It's a hard capture to get. I've done it myself, and I really enjoy this for that. And I gave it a 9.
Camouflage.
Okay, this is cool. Nice composition. Your eye leads you right up to the eye of the iguana. It's got a nice catch light. It's nice with the repeating texture of both the creature and the rock. I would have liked to have seen more detail in the shadows. Like just up here, maybe not all of that is necessary up above. If you want to have more impact, you might want to come in a little bit closer. And I gave it an 8.
Chimney Rock.
This here again, we've got some great leading lines that are bringing you right up from the brightness here, going straight up to the top. I think that the maker did a nice job of with the highlights to give it that sense of depth, the highlights and the shadows. And I gave it a 9.
Despairing.
I couldn't tell when I was judging if this was intentionally noisy, because this is a very noisy image. So I'm going to go with the fact that this is intentionally noisy, lost detail in areas in the highlights and the cheeks. But there's no doubt they do look despairing. I mean, that's what the story's about. I wish I knew why, if there was something that would have added to the story so that you knew why their reaction was this way, like if they're waiting for the bus or something. But I gave it a 7.
Really winter day.
I think this is interesting in it's got an interesting composition with the repeat of the background in the glass ball and stuff like that. I would hesitate to title something dreary just because it's somewhat of it puts you in a dreary mood. And maybe there could have been something that would have been a little bit more uplifting to title it, but I gave it a 7. I like this, excuse me, I like the shape of this. I like following the steps. You almost kind of wonder, it's like, okay, so this guy isn't the first one going up the dune because there's footsteps ahead of him and also behind him. So that kind of gives you, allows you to tell the story. I would have loved to have seen this not in a blue shadow. This could be very, very early morning light, the blue hour, to give it that light. But to me, it might be interesting to see how it does with more of a gray shadow as opposed to a blue shadow. And I gave it an 8. You know what, these are so cool to have this kind of fog situation and stuff. The entire upper half of this is kind of lost. And so it would have been nice to be able to pull out some more of those details in either on the left or up above. And I gave it a 7.
Grand Lake Light Years.
I think this was handled well. I'm actually seeing some banding in here right now, and maybe that's just because I'm really close to the but I'm seeing green and pink banding, which could also possibly be chromatic aberration. Can you guys see that? Okay, so that's something to revisit. But the layering is really nice. You've got a definite sense of depth. And then with the clouds up above, which is kind of a contrasting texture, you've got sort of the smooth texture in the middle and a more of a detailed texture above and below. I actually really like it, and I gave it a 9, but that was before I saw the banding and the chromatic. Okay. You see it?
Yeah, but it could be from the display.
Okay. All right. Well, I gave it a 9, so I gave it the benefit of the doubt. this is happy, and you can tell, you can see the joy. I always, in photos like this, I always try to be able to see the eyes, because if you can't see the eyes, I think it takes away from from the personality. And so actually for that reason, I gave it a 7. Another really nice location, being able to get just the whole variety coming down. Again, lost the detail in the falling water, but it gets, with the sides of the branches coming across and stuff, that sort of helps to create that depth with the highlight and the shadow. And I gave it an 8. I think hoarfrost is such a beautiful weather phenomena and needs to be photographed much closer than in this situation. You really can't tell how cool it is just coming from the one direction. And however, with the way you've got some leading lines going in here, and coming from the left and also coming from the right, converging on this little grove, I think that was nice, and I gave it a 7.
Ice Mountain.
I really celebrate this image. This is a really nice capture. We've got, I'm assuming again that this is a focus stack, because we've got some great focus in the foreground going all the way back to acceptably sharp in the background. We've got the V shape that is repeated essentially in the shape of the mountains. So we've got some really nice repeating patterns, and I gave it a 10. I love the shape of this. I think here again we've got some nice repeating patterns. My eye goes to different places though. The tail feather at the very end, I would like to have seen just a little bit toned down, because that's where my eye goes. But we've got some nice detail throughout the feathers in the body. We've got a little bit of a hot spot over here behind the neck, and I gave it a 9. I'm assuming this is a drone shot, and I really like it. I like how we've got the converging lines coming in, and just the geometry of this. With I like that the maker has taken this one line and put it perfectly in the corner there, because that helps to me to anchor the image, and I gave it a 10. So I think this is a really interesting image. I actually really like just the serenity of the face, and the just the rim light going not only around the chin but also around the nostrils and the eyes. I think that's fascinating, but there's somehow has been a loss of texture. The face looks flat. It looks almost over processed, and I gave it an 8. So obviously this is a long exposure. We've got the flatness of the river, and we've got some interesting things up here, but this is blank. And so because of that, I don't feel that, I think that it could be more interesting, maybe if there were, there was texture in the water, because this right side is, just doesn't have much for your eye to enjoy. I also was thinking that maybe if you had stepped over a little bit to the right and got a little bit more of this dome, because that dome is pretty interesting. And I gave it an 8.
Mirror of storm.
This is cool if, whether this is a composite or just how you were able to capture this. I like that you've got details in both the highlights and the shadows, but I wish I could see the tops of the buildings. That to me is almost like cutting off somebody's feet. So I don't know why the tops of the buildings aren't there, but I would think that that would be something that could enhance the image. And I gave it an 8.
Mountain Magic.
Here again, one of those really excellent images of celebrating our mountain. I'm assuming this is in Colorado. Details in the shadows and the highlights will really give this photo even more of a kick. And I gave it an 8. Again, without really being able to see the detail in the shadows, it's even hard to tell what species of monkey this is. Consider lightening it so that you can see what it's pondering. And I gave it a 7.
Ready to roam.
I feel that this has got some really nice grittiness to it, and you would expect that from a train engine. It's got that feeling of grit, and I like that. You've got some nice God rays coming out of the lights. You haven't lost the detail in the lights with the exception of the headlight at the top, but that's just barely lost detail in that, and I gave it a 9.
Road to nowhere.
This is also one of those shots where you're just you're walking along and you're just totally inspired by what you're seeing. But I wish I knew what the maker was thinking, because I am having a hard time landing on something just to stay in the photo and to enjoy it. But I gave it an 8.
Land and snow.
So this is I'm assuming that this is a topaz manipulation. You've done some really interesting things to it, but you did a good job of keeping the details and highlights and shadows. It's got a sense of depth. The diagonal lines helps to give it that power, and it actually it makes sense. So I gave it a 9. Here again, we've got the wonderful leading lines coming up and showing us the nice vista. I wish that the trees on the left were a little bit more contrasty so that you could just have a place for your eye to land. I'm wondering if you had gotten down lower, if this would have had more impact. And I gave it an 8. Waiting on Solitude. Yeah, Solitude. The next one's Solitude.
I think it's 27. Yeah, there you go.
I think this is this this is well titled. It has impact, and now I can see that this banding is likely from the projector, because yeah. And I like the fact that you've caught, I'm assuming this is a nun, in mid-step, so that gives it a little bit more action, gives it a little more, it's more dynamic that way, as opposed to if she was just standing still. It's got some nice leading lines coming in from this shoreline, and then also the horizontal lines that are leading you out into the ocean. And you don't have, if you had this horizon cutting through her head, that wouldn't be near as impactful as having the horizon above her head. And then in this situation, having a bigger sky, because this is about solitude, it works. And I gave it an 8. I think it was really smart to have here again, to have a person in this image, because it helps to give that sense of grandeur. I like how we've got the leading line again, starting at the bottom, bringing your eye through this puddle, and then landing on the person that's standing there. Even in the whitest whites, you've got details, and so that was well done. And I gave it a 9. You know what? I made a mistake on that Solitude. Solitude was also a 9. Okay, sunrise scene. I think I think that this does a good job of showing just the immenseness of the rock outcropping, and then here again with the sidewalk showing a sense of scale. I feel though that having man-made parts of this image along with the it's kind of like getting the punchline of a joke before the before you hear the rest of the story of the joke. It just feels like it's I wish the sidewalk and the fence wasn't there, I guess is the best way to put it, because I think that takes away from the grandeur of the scene. And I gave it a 7. This is an absolutely gorgeous staircase. I like the black and white feel to this. There's some lost detail down here with these with those elements of the image, and I gave it an 8.
Under attack.
This is here again, I'm feeling that the sky, I mean, this is really cool because you've got this impending storm coming, and I like the fact that the house is almost an arrow pointing to what's going on, but the clouds up in here feel like that's pretty much over processed. That feels a little unnatural to me, and I gave it a 7.
Waves.
I think this is cool. You've got nice rim light going on here. It tells a good story. It holds my interest, and I gave it an 8. And I believe that's it.
Yeah.
And now you separate.
Ta-da!
Yeah, 210.
2 10s. Okay, I'm going with Ice Mountain.
Okay,
I actually use Capture One, but I'm figuring everybody else is using Lightroom, so.
You're one of those,
which one do you want?
Oh, for me?
yeah, you have to pick one.
Oh,
It's one of the tiebreakers, yeah.
Muse.
Use?
Next time, don't enter 102 images.
So for you guys at home, I'm gonna end the meeting and the recording will be posted for members only, on the website. You have to have a password now. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.